It's good to see. It's good to see everybody joining in, though. This is awesome. And can a couple of you give me a thumbs up on whether you're seeing my screen right now? So, wheat. Okay, I think we're getting there. All right, so I'm just going to go get started and we'll try to figure this out along the way. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. It's that time of year again. It's our member meeting for 2021, the time of year that we thank you for all your support and then also give you an update on how we're doing and give you a sneak preview on what's coming up in 2022. So, my name is Yvonne Kraus. I've been the executive director at Evergreen for just about 6 years now. And Patrick Walker, our communications and events manager and marketing manager, is having major communications issues. So, hey, but good news, Patrick, we can actually see you now. So that's step number one. So I'm stepping up tonight, and Patrick's going to try and figure things out for us. But Peter and I are just going to take over the show and go for it. So here we go. So, reminder that we can all see you. I wish we could meet in person, and we can't, unfortunately, not quite yet. Hopefully, that's back in 2022. So, we'd love to see you. Keep your screens on, but turn off your mics if you can to keep the background noise down. We're going to take questions. We're going to have a full hour to actually go over a bunch of questions on the content you may have heard and trail projects coming up. So, plenty of time to talk about that. But in the meantime, hold your questions or paste them in the chat. We'll get to them later. Kristen is going to be monitoring the chat tonight, so Kristen will chime in if things come up. We'll try to keep it brief. We're going to rush through the sort of the content that we do, the business of the year, before we get to the fun project stuff that I'm guessing you're all here for, getting the trail project news. But we'll go at a pretty fast pace. And then we'll have a prize drawing, which, Patrick, I have no idea how I'm going to do that, but Kristen and I we'll figure that out too. So, um, we're going to review the volunteers of the year to start with. We're going to talk about the state of Evergreen. Then we'll do a tour around the state for all the chapters. So you get to hear all of what was accomplished in 2021 throughout our 8 chapters and what's coming up, more importantly, what's on the horizon. And then we'll, like I said, have about an hour for Mike to do Q&A on trail projects all around the state. You've got all of your chapter hosts and presidents here tonight so that you can ask them questions and hope that it's really engaging and that you get your questions answered tonight. If there's time, I will jump into advocacy questions as well for major topics. We want to get the trail news shared first, and then I'll jump in on burning issues that you might have about the organization. So to kick things off, I just wanted to ask you a question, and that is, what do you think is the largest statewide mountain bike organization in the nation? So use the chat function, which, Kristen, I can no longer see now that I'm presenting, which is different than I'm used to. So Kristen, you're going to have to handle this one. What do you see? What are people saying? So type your answer into the chat. What do you think is the largest statewide mountain bike organization in the nation? We'll give you 10 seconds to put in your answers. Let us know what you're seeing, Kristen, as the chat starts getting filled in.
Just about everyone saying Evergreen.
We know it's Emma. I like that answer. Duh. I like that too.
Seeing lots of funny answers here too.
I do too. All right, looks like the entries have stopped. So I'll share the surprise that as of last week, Evergreen no longer is the largest statewide mountain bike alliance in the nation. I've been saying this for 6 years, and as of last week, that's changed by a very surprising state. So here we go. Oops. Vermont, you guys, of all places, the teeny tiny state of Vermont. Exactly. What? Right? Like, Vermont surpassed us. We saw a newsletter last week, and they are 200 members bigger than we are, which blew me away, blew Mike away, blew Patrick away. And so we got some catching up to do. So help us get to the 10,000 by the end of the year or by mid next year. But I've been saying that that we're the largest for 6 years, and I am really surprised. It's not NEMBA. NEMBA is the New England Mountain Bike Alliance, right? That is 3 or 4 states. This is the Vermont Mountain Bike Coalition. Or association rather, and they are 9,300 members, so 200 bigger than us. They have done a ton of trail maintenance. They do just as much volunteer work as we do, 30,000 hours a year. So they really have got their community gelled. The capture rate within Washington state of reaching mountain bikers is expected to be only 1 to 2% in terms of the number of mountain bikers who are also members. And every time I think about a membership number, I am blown away with how much we've grown. But the capture rate in terms of total number of mountain bikers available is actually pretty low. So we are often in your inbox about membership, and maybe it feels like we're nagging, and I'm sorry about that, but it is really, truly important when I meet with elected officials to show the size of our community. Eddie, this is funny. All right. Okay, I'll try to move on here, but this is great. Okay, so without further ado, this man needs no introduction for so many of you. He's been working for Evergreen, dedicated to TOCL, dedicated to trail maintenance, dedicated to the board in various roles, and he has finally just agreed to, well, not finally, it's kind of time. He has stepped up to take on the board presidency. So Peter is going to move us to the next few sections. Welcome, Peter. Take it away. You are amazing, and I can't wait to see what we make happen here over the next few years with you in the presidency role.
Yes, thank you, Yvonne. And this is strange looking at my high school picture there. Actually, does anybody recognize where that is? It's about 12 years old. And I had to think a lot about it, but it's the building next to Duthie Hill, I believe.
Yeah,
From
looks like the King County
12
building.
years ago. Yep. So just very quickly, I thought I'd start us off by sharing a little bit about myself. My favorite trail in Washington, and it's a trail that I would say hardly any of you have done, but a lot of you have seen the pictures I take of it. And that is the Goat Creek, Goat Mountain, Vanson Peak set of trails down in the Gifford-Pinchot. It is the one where you ride behind a waterfall. And it is extremely cool. I came from California about 12 years ago, just in time to help build Duthie Hill, spending many hours scratching in the cross-country trails in some really cold weather, especially Step It Up. I was one of the first ones to work on that trail. While living in California, I started a mountain bike advocacy group in Monterey, California called MORCA, out at Fort Ord where the Sea Otter Classic is. We proudly had a checking account of about $3,000. I was very proud of that. When I moved up to Washington, I went to one of the board of director meetings with Evergreen, and I saw their financial paper that they passed out, and the budget was over $100,000. And I knew I was in over my head. Couldn't believe it. 12 years later, the budget now has an extra zero on it. It's in the millions of dollars. What a wonderful time to be a mountain biker in Washington and be able to play a role in that. Very, very humbled by all the work that was done by Yvonne, the home office, and the people before Yvonne as well. In 2022, as I take over the role as the president of the state board, our role as the board is to oversee the fiscal oversight of the organization and help create policy standards and regulations and support our paid staff, which we call the home office. We just published our most recent strategic plan. I'm sure it'll be on the website soon. And the board works with Yvonne to establish policies affecting mountain biking statewide, things like e-bike policies, access into the wilderness, those kinds of issues that Yvonne will talk about if she has time. In 2022, I think my most important goal is to get us over 10,000 people as members. We're also going to continue building new trails. We have a lot of trails to rebuild that were burned by the fires in Eastern and Central Washington. And we also want to make sure we start increasing our focus on more bike parks and pump tracks in urban and suburban areas. We've kind of let those go for the last 10 years, and now that's going to be a big part of building our ridership. And then we're also going to be working on, I'm going to be focusing on increasing diversity in our riders, in our staff, on our board, and help continue to grow our education and camp programs, which every time I stumble into people, they always want to take lessons and they're always filled. They have trouble taking lessons. Very successful. Andy Regal was our previous president of the board, and I wanted to just very quickly thank him for all his work he did. He was the president for 6 years. And during those 6 years, he helped scale up the organization to the size that it is. And then he stuck around for 2 extra years through the pandemic to make sure we came out of that looking strong, and we did. His legal expertise was also greatly appreciated. So Andy, if you're out there, thank you, and enjoy spending more time with your family. You doing the slides, Yvonne? There we go. So these beautiful people are the ones who run the organization, doing all the heavy lifting in public and behind the scenes, doing everything to make sure we have not just trails, but the best world-class trails in the country. If you want a trail, grab a shovel and dig. You want networks of world-class trails, hire these people. Thank you, Yvonne and Mike and Dave and Tara, Patrick, Bill, Kristen, Pavel, and Alex. Couldn't do it without you. Right now, Evergreen has 29 paid builders spread out throughout the state. The ones in green, Sean, Brian, Sean, Mark, Brandon, James, Cody, Ian, and Brian, have been with the organization for 5 years. And that is incredible. The board
It really is, and I'll interject there that while Vermont might have us beat in membership and is at the same level of volunteers, nobody has us beat in terms of the trail team so far. So the amount of trail work that's happening and new trail work is still really remarkable by really quite an incredible team.
And these folks are the other board members. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all of them. They represent the chapters that are located in our 6 regions of the state. And each representative who actually runs a chapter is the one who goes down and finds the trail projects, meets with the trail managers, gets everything organized so that when the home office comes in, everything is all set up. Go out and check out their work. If you haven't been out to the Meth House yet, or out to Spokane, if you're out on the west side, go on out there and check out what they got. And of course, our volunteers. Thank you. Every year, our chapter boards come up with the name of Volunteers of the Year. And you can see that they're a very diverse group. Some of them, it's because these are the guys that will go out no matter the weather or the time of day or time of year and go out there and cut down the trees that are blocking the trails, or spend their weekends, instead of riding, spend their weekends with McLeods and shovels in their hands. Or they're the educators, the instructors that take on the extra classes over the year. Thank you. We couldn't do it without you. Some more of the folks. Again, thank you, thank you. East chapter out at Spokane. A couple of C2S representatives of the Volunteers of the Year.
And this information is available on our blog, you guys. We just want to really highlight folks who are doing the amazing work in the field, rolling up their sleeves every day.
And most of these folks have been doing it for years. Southwest chapter, if you've ever been out to the Yakult Burn area, that's their stomping grounds. Great stuff. Callus Nut Cheese out by White Pass.
And we had a photo of Hannah, but we're sorry, Travis, if you're with us. We replaced you with the photo of the hound. If you're with us, raise your hand. You'll pop up on the screen and everybody can see you. But thanks so much for your hard work.
Methou chapter have a lot of work ahead of them in 2022. West Sound, if you haven't gotten to check out the new trails out at Port Campbell, try to do it. They're amazing.
All right, that's the Volunteers of the Year. Thank you, Peter, for reviewing that
Sure.
with us, and thank you for doing all this hard work. Well deserved. I'm going to go into a quick, I think we're right on time, overview of sort of like the State of the Union. Post your questions in the chat again. We'll get back to the questions as best as we can. Kristen is monitoring that, so don't be shy, and I don't think any of you are. I see the chat rolling. So I just want to also say that just seeing all your faces and seeing the Volunteers of the Year, I miss you all. Yeah, I really, really hope that in 2022, I see you in person again. I was able to travel a bit. I was doing a few chapter visits and site visits this year, so that part fell back to normal, but I really want the community events to come back, so cross fingers that we can make that happen. We are starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, it seems, when it comes to that, so 2022 seems to be exciting. What I want to review real quick is just who we are today, and just give you a sense of how we've navigated the pandemic restrictions, the financial challenges, and how we're doing, right? So I've used this slide for the past 6 years, and I just keep using it. Mike and I were both talking about maybe it's time to refresh all of our materials. It probably is so. Maybe you're tired of seeing this, but I just, as Peter mentioned, am blown away with the progression of our growth. My first meeting with you all in 2015, we were at just over 2,000 members, and now we're at 9,100, right? Pretty remarkable. And every year it seems to be the trend of about 1,000 members. COVID was bigger than that for obvious reasons. As I mentioned, best trail crew in the nation, if you ask me. We will be growing that crew next year significantly. We have a lot of training up to do. We have a lot of work to do. And hoping to diversify again statewide to make that happen. What was really cool is this year, for the first year, we had projects in all 8 chapters. So our chapters are mostly still driven by volunteers who work tirelessly, right? That is really the roots of the organization. We are volunteer based. Without the chapter volunteers, we couldn't make any of this happen. Chapter councils are volunteer. People put in a ton of time for Evergreen. And what was cool is this year with the Packwood Trail project happening in Cowlitz Natchez, we're not building yet, but because of your Give Big donations, we've been able to support initial environmental reviews for the Packwood Trail project, so that's huge. And that means that we now have active trail projects in all 8 chapters. When I started 6 years ago, we had, when it came to paid contracts, just Central with actual paid work. There's work happening in other chapters, but now we have paid contracts in all chapters, and it's really quite phenomenal. We continue to be really strong, and I think probably increasing collaboration partner for our land managers. I can't keep up with the advocacy work, frankly. That's growing, so I'm trying to figure out how I can address that through some staff reorgs. But there's a ton happening, and I think our role continues to grow there. Also working really hard, thank you again, Kristen McCune, who runs our education program, but also stepped up to make us more diverse and more welcoming by running the DEI committees. So we're doing okay. You know, we had a tough 2020 year, just like all of you had. But we this year started back with in-person meetings with our trail crew, doing that safely in the outdoors. We were able to adopt a new strategic plan and posted the 2020 pandemic annual report, right, which is very different in terms of numbers from other reports. So it took us a while to post it, but both those documents very much worth a read. They are posted on our website in the footer. So scroll down on the homepage all the way down to the bottom to download copies of those reports. All of that, again, happening with your support and with board and volunteer input. So some big products and having a good guideline for the next 5 years. We had, Tara can correct me here if I'm wrong and maybe put the right number in the chat, but I'm pretty sure we reached over 90 staff this summer. That's the biggest we've ever been. That is very much due to the growth of the trail team, but also the education program. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But lots of new additions in the education programs across multiple chapters. Our campaigns continue to do really well, so we met our goals in both of them. We onboarded new trail crew in chapters, and that's really exciting to me, is to really expand solid, sustainable trail crew jobs within chapters and having enough momentum there to keep them supported. It's not easy to do, but we're making it happen slowly but surely. And then the good news is, with all the worry that I had and I expressed, if you attended last year, this meeting, about what the funding, the recreation funding would look like, with the Build Back Better Act and with the Great American Outdoors Act, we are starting to see more concrete funding coming our way for recreation, lots of recreation planning efforts, lots of new grant opportunities that we thought might happen years. We'll talk about that, for example, in the Methow or other chapters where we thought we would be multiple years out, and the funding is actually coming through sooner than we anticipated. So no sign of slowing down, and financially pretty solid. We still have to make our end of year goal for the campaign, but pretty solid. Continued challenges though along the way. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but just highlighting that I'm dealing with a lot of new and changing rules and regulations, a lot of new users on the land who require new education. That means that there's a lot of chatter on social media that's taken more of my time than I'd like, and I'm not as active as I'd like. So we have some work to do in social media to make sure that we as a community continue to be very welcoming and positive. That's a challenge, and I've pulled back from it. So I don't want to beat around the bush that that's not been the funnest part of working here this year, right? So we have some work to do there, and I could use all of your help to monitor that and just kind of moderate the conversation and try to keep it positive. Those changing rules and regulations are difficult though, and I understand they trigger concerns and comments. So I totally understand it. We have work to do in education. We have work to do in learning some of the permitting requirements and some of the Department of Ecology and new tribal concerns and new cultural review requirements that we have that can delay or complicate projects. So I'm trying to navigate that as best as I can. And the good news is our project list for next year is bigger than ever. So with all of these challenges, we're still able to make a lot happen. Just want to be frank that is a reality of the work at the moment. We don't know what the event environment is going to look like next year, but we're hoping to bring much of it back, including the Mountain Bike Festival. Fingers crossed that we can pull that off. It's not easy. And then overall, been a challenging year for the team, just like many of you are seeing changes in your workplaces. So are we. We lost 4 admin staff this year. We're trying to replace that. We're trying to expand the team. We need more help. We've been too scrappy for too long. So those are really the challenges that I'm faced with for the next year that I just wanted to highlight for you all, and happy to answer questions on that. Financially, though, we're doing okay. Challenging year in 2020, and you guys and your support is amazing. So I'm really happy now to turn it over to Bill Kinsel. He's our new finance director. And if you noticed, he's also elected as Volunteer of the Year by the East Chapter because he's been doing work for Evergreen forever. So Bill's going to give you a quick financial overview before we go and start the tour of the state.
Thanks, Yvonne. Yeah, stoked to be here today. Is actually my 3-month anniversary. So just kind of getting my head above water here and stuff. And so, yeah, these are some of the numbers. I think the story for me, having been out on the trail, like Yvonne mentioned, for a few years, is just, 2019, looking back, pre-COVID, Evergreen had revenue of almost $2 million. And then COVID came, obviously, and did take a hit, and things went down. But the story, I think, for 2021 so far, almost at the end of the year, is just great recovery that we've seen. You're looking at some of the numbers here from the COVID year, where we had a $26,000 loss. I think some of that's maybe getting cut off there, but we basically broke even on the pie charts there between income and expense. Was the story at the end of the day. Education revenue and event revenue was just down just because we couldn't do those things for the year. But we survived and moving forward. So that's the exciting thing that I can see. There was a note there that we did go out as part of the challenging time and seek some loans, some PPP loans from the government. You see down there, and donations, obviously, and worked through those, and we're able to get those forgiven here recently in the last few quarters, which is super exciting for the organization. So going to the next slide is the current year of where we're at, and it's kind of cut off there as well. But it's been a super exciting year to get those loans forgiven. Seen a huge rebound in education revenue. I think education revenue was up about 300% over year, which is huge, even exceeding 2019 numbers. So that's an exciting number. And like Yvonne mentioned, so many trail projects. Trail revenue is up year over year so far for the year. This is showing through October, 700,000. Through today, we're at 860,000 of 870,000 actually of trail revenue. There's some timing here of why those expense and income numbers don't make sense. But yeah, we're super good rebound. The PPP loan forgiveness has been great for the year. Education has been great, and just getting ourselves set up and ready to go into next year. So go to the next slide. So this is just a picture of cash and the way we kind of spread cash out amongst the chapters. And really the story here is back in October of 18, we were at 450K, and then we increased to 560K in 19, by K I mean 1,000. And then you can see here, last year, COVID year, 680,000. We just continue that progression up as a result of the PPP loans and like the support. And then here we are today, we're actually, as of today, over 1.2 million of cash on hand. So, we do attribute that here to the 8 chapters. They each have their own balances. And, the central location also has its balance as well. But, a big portion of these funds are spoken for trail projects and things like that. Of those chapter funds there that you see, 300,000 of those next year, like Yvonne mentioned, are already kind of spoken for big trail projects that we have just on the docket throughout the state. So doing good cash wise, but definitely, have some big plans and projects in the works. Really the way I think of it is the 3 T's: trails, talent, and technology. Since I've come in, just focusing on technology within the finance function here, just trying to get up to speed and get some new systems and processes in place. So yeah, super good setup for the future, and ready to go build more trail and just advance the cause. So yeah, and then looking forward here into the future, like Yvonne mentioned, tons of trail projects in the works for next year. Hopefully we can get all those taken care of. It's going to require a ton of people to come on board and help out and support staff wise and so on and so forth. So the PPP loan, like I mentioned, was forgiven. The board approved here about a month ago to put some funds aside for the future to increase our rainy day fund, which is super exciting. So we'll be able to do that. And then, tech and talent, like I mentioned there, just setting us up better for the future. So yeah, coming on board here from a volunteer to being a staff member, I mean, we're set up for the future. We just have to keep, don't forget our roots of where we came from, and just keep being diligent and focus on what's made us successful so far. So that's pretty much it, Yvonne, unless you have anything else to add there.
No, I think that's great, Bill. And we are doing great on time. So if anyone has a question right now about the financials, paste it in the chat, and Bill and I can, oh, there you go. Bill, what's a PPP?
Perfect.
Oh, Bill, there's a question for you and you went on mute. Oh, you got it. So that's the loan that we received. We ended up going for 2 to address all of the unknowns, the financial unknowns with COVID. It was actually a lot of hard work to get them. And eventually, Eric Willard, Secretary of the Cascades to Sound chapter, was able to get it secured for us through Home Street Bank, which was fantastic. and we ended up actually changing banks to Home Street as a result because of their service. And then both of those loans were forgiven, so that is cash that we otherwise wouldn't have had. So again, if we didn't have such a strong, dedicated community, all of you guys tapping your own networks and rolling up your sleeves, we wouldn't be where we are, right? So it's just really cool to see how we internally make things happen together.
Yeah, another question came up there. Were the 2020 liabilities the PPP loan? And the answer is partially yes. We have some other small liabilities, but yes.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to go through the last bit of business work. This is the requirement that we have in our bylaws to inform you on how we're doing in the program. So I'm going to do it at rapid speed and just give you a highlight of where are we with our programs themselves, right? So Jessica, you pasted a question in the chat about like, how do we get the work? How do these trail contracts come about? How do we have, $1 million worth of invoicing happening on trails every year that employs this large trail crew? Well, that's mostly through our advocacy work, right? Number one, sometimes doing open space protection, working with elected officials to get at the high level state funding secured for projects, and then going after the grants, writing the grants on a project by project basis. Sometimes writing it with chapters. Sometimes the chapters have volunteers who do that on their own and are really successful at it. And a lot of it is Mike and myself and David and Patrick just chasing down the work and getting grants pursued. Same with education. Kristen, in order to expand her education program, is beginning to write more and more grants as well. So a lot of it is because of the bullets that you see on the slide here. And as I said earlier, I have a really hard time keeping up at this point with all of the advocacy work that needs to be done. It is just increasing in scope incredibly. But we're trying our best. Here are all of the things that I've personally been working on. And one thing to highlight from this year is we're starting to see a lot of our engagement move from state to federal, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to deal with that and how I fit that within our statewide lens. However, if there are federal bills and acts that eventually could trickle down to our state, it's important to stay on top of that. I collaborate with IMBA on that a lot, but I'm starting to see our role increasing in that as well. And the reason for that is there are a number of acts out there right now that are directly related to funding that I'm tracking through participation in the Outdoor Alliance of Washington. That's new. And it's the Great American Outdoors Act. It's the Build Back Better Act. There is Recreation, Not Red Tape. I'm explaining all the acronyms on your screen. There's actually a bill right now that is specifically for long distance bike trails. That's what the bill is for, which is remarkable, right? So definitely I'm tracking that, and maybe we can make the Pacific Orogenesis Trail happen. Maybe we can make the Evergreen Way happen. Maybe we can get the Hut to Hut Trail from Ellensburg to Wenatchee connected and built through this new act. So very curious to see what would happen there. And then ongoing work with elected officials and making sure that I both, meet with them and also enjoy our sport with them and introduce them to their sport if they haven't had that before. So happy to answer any questions about advocacy, but the cool news this year is lots of in-person site meetings again and client meetings to simply touch base and look at the impact of our work. The education program, as Bill mentioned, Kristen's done an incredible job bouncing back from the 2020 restrictions and making a program not only thrive, but grow incredibly. So super proud and super excited about what she's made happen there. Biggest numbers ever, expansion into multiple chapters, 1,600 volunteer teaching hours, again, going back to that volunteerism, and then 47 students this year as part of our DEI work. getting assistants to be able to attend classes. Kristen did some super creative stuff with the Central chapter, and really kudos to the Central chapter for Spanish-speaking only classes, for mother and child classes. Really just cool expansion in diversity and equity and reaching a broader audience. So well done, Kristen. Exceeding goals and expectations there. The volunteer program, we lost Bobby. I miss him already. Cody and David are mostly taking over the reporting on this. We're back on track. We should be meeting our goal. According to Cody Olson, our number is going to be double from what you're seeing on the screen in terms of total volunteer hours once we're all done tallying it up for the year. So we're looking really good. Huge kudos in the collaboration with Transcascadia. If you haven't gone out with Transcascadia on one of their work parties, we collaborated with them on the GAOA this year. That's what kept Cody busy, and we hired some new staff to help with that as well. Volunteer program did great. It's just good to see it come back after so many restrictions last year. And then Trails program, I'm just showing you the slide. I'm going to talk about it so that we stay on track because Mike is going to go over all the details. But I will say that trail building in general, for the most part, was back to normal this year. Our trail mileage opened was a little lower this year. You've seen years where we've opened 70, 60 miles of trail, right? This year we only opened 26 miles, but there is a lot of focus on maintenance and a lot still either multi-year construction phases that will open soon or open next year. I can't stress how important the Give Big funding campaign is for all of this. So while I saw a question in the chat related to how do trails get funded, well, we have contracts, but we also have Give Big. And every year, all of our chapters come together. We identify which projects are shovel ready. And then we advertise those projects and just simply ask you for support and say, without donations, these are not happening because there is no other funding. This year, 30 miles of trail went under construction just because of Give Big. So really important campaign for us. And then once those funds are in the bank, as Bill mentioned, those are restricted and we draw down to pay for the cost as we go along. So yeah, we're looking good. Our work is also diversifying, but I'll let Mike talk about that. Lots more focus on urban riding areas. So without any more time on that, I'm going to well, how do we do this, Kristen? Is this you? Are you willing to step up in this and fill Patrick's role and moderate the transitions, or what do you think?
Sure, I'm happy to jump in.
Okay. We'll co-host this as best as we can. Cool. So we're gonna take a tour around the state and talk trails. Kristen's gonna introduce and move in between the chapters, but basically all of the chapters are gonna show you the great work that's happening, and you're gonna get the glimpse into 2022, and then we'll wrap it all up with Mike with the statewide picture, and then time for Q&A. So go ahead, Kristen, and I'll keep time on this one for you.
Awesome. I think first up we have Tony Hickok of Central Chapter. Tony, if you want to unmute yourself and share all the things that's going on in Central.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks everybody for showing up tonight. Over 170 people here. That's awesome. So in the Central chapter this last year was really about getting reconnected with our volunteers, getting work parties started back up while we didn't have as many of them as we would have liked. It was great to be back out on the trail with all our friends and making new friends. We were able to open up a number of new trails this year in the No. 2 Canyon area, and also the final new trail at Squilchuck State Park. Also finished up the last mile and a half of Bob's Trail up at Echo Ridge as well. That doesn't make the slide. So it's nice to be building new trail after, a tough year and a half or so. But what we're really most excited about in the Central chapter is that success of the education program statewide and within Central. Over 300 students. It was just a couple of years ago when we had just like 3 classes, and we were over 30 this year, and it was very exciting. Kate Bonnet and her crew working with Kristen to just take this thing leaps and bounds. We couldn't be more excited for all of that. And Yvonne mentioned the classes in Spanish and our mother and child class. So we look forward to a lot of that. And also thanks to all the members for stepping up and new members showing up, an increase at the central chapter level of 30% in membership. As far as what next year looks like, we've got a ton to do. We were hoping to get a pump track built this last year in the Wenatchee area. That's been moved to next year, hopefully. So we'll actually be looking at 2 different pump tracks, one in the city of Wenatchee, one in the city of Quincy. We're very excited about that. We are looking at finishing up Ski Hill and Leavenworth with the finish of the nut extension, the culmination of decades worth of work being wrapped up very soon on that. And then a lot of our focus is going to continue to be at the number 2 Canyon Trail project with a lot of infrastructure improvements, kicking things off this next season with a bunch of sign installation, but really getting the infrastructure build out going as the trail mileage continues to stack up there. We're also excited about some opportunities for more backcountry maintenance. Hopefully, we're looking at potentially doing a lot of trail restoration work after a forest health treatment this winter or spring at Squilchuck. So we'll be all over the map in the central area, a ton to do, and hope that you guys can come and check it all out.
Very cool. Thanks so much, Tony. Really impressed by the explosion that's happening in Central right now across all your programs. Really impressive. Next up, we have Joseph Brown of the Methow chapter. Joe, are you there?
I am here. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking time out of your busy evening to join us. It's always fun to take this little tour around the state and see what's happening. I'm always impressed. Just take a few minutes here and kind of highlight what 2021 really has looked like for us, a little bit different than some other parts of the state. Similar to Tony with Central, we started off really trying to reconnect with our volunteers, with our land managers after really not being very well connected during the primary part of COVID, where we really couldn't work together at all. So early in the season was a maintenance focus and really trying to get people out on the trails and having more dig days and so on and so forth, particularly on our high volume multi-use trails. Literally about 10 days after finishing work on one of our most important trails, pretty much everything caught on fire here in the Methow. And so the Cedar Creek and Cup Creek fires really impacted a large portion of trails here in the Methow, including a big part of Sun Mountain. So even though, we got a good start, the fire and related closures really prevented any new construction in 2021. But there are some milestones that I think are worth bringing up. As things were on fire and were recovering from fire, we did receive a Title II grant for, again, doing some high volume multi-use trail maintenance on the Twist River Trail and Tripod area. Tripod area is kind of the area northeast of the valley proper. So Lightning Creek, Starvation Mountain, all kind of the OG trails that really have been forgotten over the years. And then really at the conclusion of fires, we launched our Bring 'em Back Trail Fund, and just a big shout out to those out there in the audience who have contributed. We really appreciate that. Thank you very much. That has been very successful, and we're getting close to raising the funds and resources to begin trail recovery next year. We also are in the final stretches, have about 2 more weeks doing the final permitting for Loop Loop project. That's a 30-mile trail project that's going to be sort of developed around Loop Loop Ski Hill. And then finally, we have some funding to finish the Lewis Butte trail that just sits just slightly north of Winthrop. And again, we saw a growth, a little bit of increase in membership, which I think in this environment where it's more challenging to actually be together and brush shoulders is notable. So we're really appreciate all of our members. Okay, so moving to 2022, we have a lot of work, as Peter mentioned earlier. So we have trail recovery work at Sun Mountain. There's about 22 miles of damaged or heavily impacted trails at Sun Mountain. So as soon as snow melts, we are hiring a new crew to hit that hard and try to get that back in circulation as soon as possible. And then, as I mentioned before, Loop Loop North Summit Trail project, that construction will also begin next year, sometime in 2022. We will finish Lewis Butte early on in the year. And then part of Sun Mountain that really just needs finishing are putting up kiosks and signage and maps. And then again, as I mentioned before, Title II trail maintenance program really focuses on, again, Twist River Trail and the areas to the east of us, which, as an aside, are really important because those are going to feed the work that we do at Loop Loop. So all the Loop Loop Trail project is going to tie those trails in the Tripod area, so we'll no longer have to ride miles of gravel road to get to the sweet trails. And then as part of the Bring 'em Back trail work at Sun Mountain, we received a gift from our local ranger district from the BEAR funding. So the Burned Area Emergency Response grant was a gift that we didn't ask for, but it was money given to us to help with that assistance. And I think it's just a testament to the strength of the partnership that we have here in the Valley. So we appreciate that. And then as
Joe, I'm gonna hold you there if it's okay, and we can go to the next chapter just to stay on track. But we'll probably get back to fire recovery funding during Q&A.
thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Joseph. A lot of challenges this year, but I'm so impressed by the resilience. I'm so impressed by our community and how much they've given already to help with the recovery. So looking forward to next year. Next up is John Phelps with the West Sound chapter.
Hey, good evening, everybody. So big thank you to our dedicated West Sound volunteers. We could not get the work done that we're getting done without them. There's some major projects that I am super excited to talk a little bit about tonight. So we were lucky enough this past year to actually open up 4 new trails out in the Port Gamble system. If you have not been to West Sound to ride any of the Port Gamble trails, 2022 is going to be your year. So we reopened the Derail Trail. It's a blue flow trail. It's one of the most popular for all age riders out in our system. Always busy, always people doing multiple sessions on that. The big one that we open is 3 new trails on the Ranger Corridor, and I know the board can really attest to the fun of this. Lots of hoops and hollers on those new trails, everything from a spicy blue, a black, and even a double black jump line for those that are wanting to really get that big challenge in there. So super exciting for that. We also rebuilt our Paulsbo pump track, which has actually led to additional opportunities. Talk about that in just a minute. And then the 4th and final trail we were able to get open in this past year is the Hood. It's a high banked trail for those that like kind of like the lollipops out there and I-90, for those that like those high swooping corners and whatnot. So our big milestone is our ride park. We are so excited. 4 years of work have gone into this baby, the permitting process, all the red tape that everybody knows about. We finally signed the contract. Thank goodness. Thanks, Yvonne and everybody for all the help and work on that. So this is going to be a 170-acre ride park right here in our backyard, 20+ trails ranging all the way from green to what Brian Tustison says he wants to build something he's even scared to ride. So a full progression of all the trail out there that is currently under construction. We are expecting a grand opening in 2022. So again, that's the reason to come out to West Sound and check us out. Super excited by that. In addition, we also have projects coming on Bainbridge Island for a 10-acre ride park and pump track there. We've got Green Mountain, another long-term project that's going to be coming to fruition here in early spring. So lots and lots of projects coming up there. Some of our big things too, like Kristen had mentioned, we actually started a youth dirt camp. Very successful, very excited by that. So to wrap up very quickly, because I know we have less than a minute to go. So again, we talked about Green Mountain. Because of our work on the Paulsville pump track, the city of Gig Harbor and Bremerton have reached out. I think they're a little jealous. They want their own. So we're working on some projects and agreements with them. And again, mentioned the Bainbridge Island Strawberry Park, ride park coming there. So again, come check us out. Come on out. Have a good time. That's all I got.
Thanks so much, John, and thanks for your leadership through all of this expansion. It's pretty awesome to see. Next up, we have Jesse Cunningham at the Kittitas chapter.
Mic's on now. Thanks, Kristen. And thank you everyone for coming out tonight. 2020 was a really great year for us. 2021, we saw a return to education classes and more in-person advocacy, but a slight reduction in our accomplishments with trail projects. One advocacy highlight I'd like to point out is we got Representative Dent and Senator Warnick to come out to Nanum Ridge and do a site tour with us. This is a photo here of Representative Dent on an e-bike. We got him on an e-bike and he was zipping around and loving it. So it was pretty fun to see that. We talked with them about e-bike legislation, about Nanum access, which we still haven't secured permanent recreation access, but we're working on that. And we also talked with them about our vision for the Nanum Ridge trails and hopefully a future connection from Nanum Ridge over to Squilchuck State Park in Wenatchee. So in terms of what we accomplished this year, we had a lot of setbacks, as did some of the other chapters on the east side of the Cascades with state lands being shut down. We also were doing a lot of forest treatment, mastication, and prescribed burns in the Towns to Tanaway area as well. So that hindered our ability to do maintenance and build new trail in those areas. But at Nanum Ridge State Forest, we did complete our first downhill trail in our upper intermediate advanced area. It's not quite fully finished, but it's scratched in and definitely mostly rideable. Next year, we'll put some finishing touches on that one. And then we also, with the help of the Washington Conservation Corps, they had a trail crew come out and they helped us get a mile of our XC loop built up there that will connect our upper campground and trailhead to the existing trails that we have there. DNR also installed vault toilets at 2 of the trailheads there. So you can now take care of all your business there, riding bikes and using the toilets. So that's pretty exciting as well. Looking at the Tanaway Community Forest and the Towns to Tanaway area, which is around the communities of Roslyn, Cle Elum, and Ronald. We officially opened Paul's Trail. It was finished in 2020, but we officially opened it this year. It's a 3-mile connector trail across the top of Roslyn Ridge. We've also been working on identifying opportunities to connect to the Tanaway Community Forest, which is on the other side of the ridge. And all indications show that we may be able to start doing some work in the Tanaway this year. Could you do the next slide, please, Kristen?
Yep, sorry, that's me. That's all me.
Oh, okay.
I'm distracted by the chat. I'm sorry, not paying attention. And you're also almost out of time, Jesse, so.
Okay, I'll make this really quick. Just looking forward to 2022, continuing our work in Nanum with progression skills area that we had hoped to complete this year and didn't get to. And also a small kids loop there, and also continuing work on the cross-country loop trail. and more downhill trails as well. In the Towns to Teanaway, we're going to work on rehabilitating some of the trails that were damaged by the forest health treatments that were going on there. And as I mentioned, we're hoping to get started on work in the Teanaway. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Jesse. You got a small but mighty crew out there. Lots of fun, exciting trail projects going on. Next we have Chris Conley over in East.
Hi, thank you for joining everyone. Just a couple quick highlights that are really exciting numbers for me. Current membership is at 649, and we had a goal of in 2020 of 500. And so it's looking like that 700 number is definitely attainable this year and beyond. So thank you to everybody that has supported us through membership to the East Chapter. Our volunteer number is crushing it this year. We're at 3,800 hours. I had a quiet goal that I didn't share with anybody of 4,000 because I thought there was no way we're going to hit it. With a couple projects that we have, if the ground isn't too frozen over the next couple of weeks, we'll probably hit that 4,000 number. As far as 2021 accomplishments, we completed 2 more miles on the upper 290 trail at Mount Spokane. We've been working in the McKenzie Natural Area, which is another conservation futures purchase from Spokane County. We've added a climbing trail and a midline trail, which also connected to the connector trail that connects the McKenzie Natural Area to Liberty Lake Regional Park. We completed the Arrowleaf Trail in cooperation with WTA, which is a new trail system and a new trailhead called the Trentwood Trailhead that's on Antoine Peak. It's proven to be probably one of the busiest trailheads around. The parking lot is continually packed. It's getting a ton of use. And that adds one additional southern access to this conservation area that is served by an east and a west trailhead, and will continue to build trails in that zone for the next several years to come. We just started an exciting project at Mica Peak. It's called the Diamond Loop Trail, or as the county likes to call it, the Dog Walker Loop. It's a short loop from the trailhead at Mica, and it's actually going to become one of the first legs of the climbing trail, where we'll finally be able to climb single track from basically the trailhead up to the top of the Silicate Slide Bike Trail and other potential trails there. We're started planning, working on a trail plan for a bike park on Gold Hill in Chewelah. So look for exciting things to be happening in Chewelah. It'll definitely become a designation for weekend trips and things. There's some great camping right by the trailhead. I think it's going to be a really cool zone, and we're going to build several new mountain bike specific trails in that zone over the next year. We're also flagged a new climbing trail that will bypass the Edith Hansen climb at Liberty Lake Regional Park. For those of you that have climbed Edith Hansen at 25% grade, this will be significantly better to reach the lower loop and the upper loop trail on at Liberty Lake, and hopefully draw more kind of beginner and intermediate riders out to that area. And so look for additional new trails and things going on in the Liberty Lake area. Okay, switch to the next slide. Okay, so you have my promise. In 2022, we're going to finish the upper 290 trail. We've got about 250 to 300 feet left to go. It's been an incredibly difficult build because the top half had to be built by hand, and it's probably the most difficult, thickest grass that we've ever built. So we've had hundreds of volunteer hours out there, along with our paid crew at the bottom, cutting the flow trail portion in with a machine. But we will get that open this year, and we'll have a second top to bottom trail at Mount Spokane. So very excited to be able to ride that. It's going to be rock tech at the top. There'll be some great flow in the middle, and then you'll have some good rooty jumps and things at the bottom. It's going to be quite a fantastic trail. And Yvonne even got a chance to sample a little bit of that this last summer, which was great. We'll complete the additional work at McKenzie Natural Area. We're widening some existing trails. We'll be closing some trails, kind of making it more loop friendly. We'll complete this new west climbing trail in Liberty Lake Regional Park. We're working on another small reroute, which is also in Liberty Lake. It is the Idaho Road trailhead into the Liberty Lake Regional Park now, which is kind of a steep fall line rutted out trail. So we're going to create a little bit more user-friendly trail and requiring less maintenance into the park. We're finalizing the trail plans since we were able to finish up the Make Beacon Public campaign this last year, adding 160 acres to the park. We're going to finalize a trail plan for those. So we're going to lock in those existing trails, reroute where we need to around some current private property, and finalize everything so that we can get in good shape to go towards Beacon 2.0, which is additional property that we'd like to work with the county to purchase so we can add even more public land on Beacon Hill. A couple other quick things. We're running a water line from the pump house to the pump track and gravity line at Camp Sakani, which will allow us to do some summertime maintenance of both gravity line, the skills park, and then also the pump track.
Very quick wrap up, Chris. Sorry to move you guys along.
No problem. All
Is
good
that
on
it?
my end.
All right. We'll get back to East, I'm sure, because there's a ton happening, so there'll be questions.
Next up is Tyler. Tell us about cheese.
Thanks, Kristen. Well, this year, it was like everywhere else. It was a little bit tough to kind of get replugged in with land managers and get things rolling. They had a lot of their own challenges, so we kind of took the approach of let's just get the low hanging fruit, get what we can done, and slowly work towards the future. So for us, we did focus on trail maintenance in a couple areas. Cow Canyon is an old cattle driving trail that we were fortunate enough to be able to rehab and get running again. So that was a big accomplishment for us. The Titan River Trail, there is a section that had been somewhat unusable and crossed into private land. Fish and Wildlife purchased that in the last year or so, and so we were able to start working on that. And Strawberry Ridge this fall, we got to get out when the weather was just right and get some heavy armored drainage work done out there. It was in a desperate need of it. The pumice ruts were getting pretty bad, so we were able to get out there and tackle some of that. For milestones, again, Cow Canyon, getting the rehab work done on that and getting that running again was a really big deal for us. Even though it wasn't a new trail, it is a new trail for mountain biking in the area, and that felt pretty good to get that done. So you can see it over my right shoulder in my background picture there. It's rugged, it's raw, definitely an old school style trail. So come check that out if that's what you're into. We kept working with Natchez Ranger District to start conceptualizing potential trails in the Rimrock Peninsula. It's a developed recreation area that they're looking to redefine. It's been closed since the meat of COVID. It got hit pretty hard, so they had to close it down, and they're looking to reopen, hopefully in the not too distant future, and kind of reinvent that space, make it a little more family friendly. And bike trails are hopefully going to be a part of that. The Titan River Trail, again, we are scouting in that area. We think Fish and Wildlife is pretty amiable to the idea of extending that and allowing us to make a loop, which would be a whole new opportunity in the middle section of the Titan River Canyon. So pretty excited about being able to move forward on that. And we got an environmental kind of a pre-scoping document done with Sky Environmental for the Packwood Trail project. And that will really help inform the Cowlitz Ranger District on entering the NEPA process, see if there's any showstoppers and what the best way to enter that process will be. And then on the horizon, we're going to continue scouting the Soup Creek area. That work got pushed back with code. The Forest Service just didn't have time to engage on that, but we're going to keep looking at that area and a couple of other areas for new trail potential. There's an area just below Cow Canyon near where that trail ends that a couple other nonprofits, the climbing group, the Yakima River Runners, kayaking and whitewater rafting outfit, and a few others, we're all interested in potentially seeing a trailhead and another bridge to get across the Titan River in that area, right near the town of Rimrock Retreat. So we've been engaging with Fish and Wildlife to discuss that possibility. Continuing our partnership with the Packwood Trail Project, of course, and we just started working with Gifford Pinchot National Forest and all the other user groups that are operating on that forest to participate in the sustainable trail strategy, and really creating a working group that will help inform what a sustainable trail system looks like for the Gifford Pinchot moving forward, and just decide what are going to be the best ways to help really tackle that and make it a reality. Thanks, Kristen.
Tyler. Doing a lot of work out there. We really appreciate you. Next we have Southwest Chapter. Joseph, you out there?
Yep, I'm here. Well, we've had a lot going on here as well, as we have kind of had to reboot, as many of you have said. Fortunately, we had a couple of projects underway, and that has allowed us to maintain good volunteer hours, even though there were a lot of challenges in getting that done. So this year we finished Beargrass Trail, also known as Trail Number 7, which is going to connect the top of the Thrillium lot, and you can do it a couple different ways, but it'll allow you to go up to the towers, down over to Cold Creek, or you can just up and down and come back on it. It's a blue trail, 2 ways, super fast, but it's got kind of features in it, so it's kind of a good warm-up run for those who are thinking, maybe we should go down to the bigger trail, Thrillium down below. We also are in the process of working on Vista Ridge Trail. We have built 1 mile of it so far. This is a climbing trail. It's a green climbing trail. And it is going to eliminate the 1070 road, which has got to be about the worst mile of road in any forest around, and makes it so you can do multiple laps on the mountain there. And in total, what's really happening is that we are getting a much more dynamic system that lets you ride the trails multiple different ways, as opposed to simply just climb the road, take a run on this trail, climb the road, take a run on that trail. So it's becoming much more of a system. Our hope is to continue the Vista Ridge Trail in the near future, and we'll be working with the DNR here shortly to try and get that accomplished. Other accomplishments would be our ED program. As I've heard the theme earlier that, hey, ED's really popular, and you may know Kat. She has been running that for us, and she's been doing a great job and selling out, and more requests for more programming, and just kind of meeting that demand to get more people trained up will be one of the goals for this year. We've also been doing some good fundraising. We had CDC in town. We had a jersey campaign that went really well, and we also put 400 hours into Thrillium alone last year and kind of rebuilt it top to bottom. So we really appreciate everyone giving to the Give Big. The Give Big is what built Trail 8 and the climbing trail primarily. So that was really great for everyone contributing to that. In the future, we're looking to finish up Vista Ridge Trail 8. We don't have that plan all worked out with the DNR. In fact, we're going to meet with Yvonne next week and some of our lead, as we're really trying to figure out how to build, get to the next system, right? How do we go from being a number of good trails and a fun place to ride to really that next level network that many of you already have and that we hope to emulate. So work parties are full speed. We finally got that really rolling well, and we've been really crushing those lately. And one common complaint is signage is a problem. Well, I think that will be fixed next time you roll into town. So that's exciting. And we are also planning to bring back our summer event. It looks like it's going to happen. And we're just trying to coordinate that and get all the pieces put together. So thank you for everyone's giving to Give Big and help us build so many great trails in recently.
Eric, just to add to that, lots of action, lots of interest, and I added a bullet to your slide that you weren't aware of, and that's just that I'm getting a ton of interest for chapter expansion into the White Salmon area and new ride area and ride plans for that region as well. So I wanted to mention that. The other thing also very exciting is if the Great American Outdoors Act funding comes through, we will have a Trans-Cascadia work-style party that will bridge the Forest Service and DNR land. So we're currently working on that. We're really hoping to get that approved, and it's in the proposal at the moment. So fingers crossed, because that'll bring a ton of excitement as well.
We also signed a contract with the Gifford Pinchot to work on the Suisun Trail, which got burned out last year. Something else I should have mentioned in there.
Very exciting. Thank you. Last but not least, you have Cascades to Sound with Wes.
You can call us the least. I mean, after this, like every trail that you guys don't need any more trails. Like, look at this. It's been like 40 minutes. Like nobody's, I mean, you couldn't ride them all. Anyways, thank everybody for coming. Wesley Meyer with the Cascades to Sound chapter. As you see here, we covered King, Pierce, and Snohomish counties where all the people and seemingly none of the trails should be, but we have news for you. For us, moving through COVID, moving out of, many of you know, we were basically the Evergreen statewide organization split into essentially the local chapter. And we've had a focus over the last 2 years in trying to build community. And you'll see on the slide, our Trail Ambassador program's kicking off. We've got some of the greatest amounts of new users in our area: Raging, Tiger, Duthie, Black Diamond, Open Space, lots and lots of people. And so the Ambassador program, which we're encouraging people to sign up for, allows you to get out there and identify yourself and help people enjoy the sport. Point them in the right direction. Don't point them down Predator if they've never been riding before. Don't point them to Duthie if they want to go fast. So we had some good success there. Some other things I'm proud of. We've got King, Pierce, and Snohomish County. It's been difficult for us to get a to get a tow hold, both in Pierce and Snohomish counties. And so this year we were able to add a committee to support Pierce County and then a South Snohomish County, Japanese Gulch and Lord Hill. And again, we'd love to have people who live in those areas and value those assets to come on in and join the people who are doing the good work there. Education, great season this year. Almost 1,000 students, 50 instructors. Crank Sisters, we have an amazing women identifying as women focused riding group, but over 135 rides this year with 600 participants. You can move on 2 slides. Next one. Yep. And to bring it up, I mean, it seemingly wasn't possible to add more trails into this area, but we had 3 new trails open at Tiger Mountain this year. Raging River, more trail mileage there. Mount Vernon for people up north, the new ride parks, the summit at Snoqualmie. I mean, come on, like when was the last time, like Stevens, when was the last time we had trails with a chairlift? Vashon Island, if you live out there, Japanese Gulch, 150 feet of bridges. Tokal, I mean, we keep building and building and building at Tokal. And part of this is we've got to have ongoing maintenance going on at Duthie, Black Diamond, Open Space, and all of these other mature trails. And again, citing into 22, for us focusing on community, we've got to get back. We've got to get the Winter Stoke event to come back. We've got to get some Ride, Dig, Ride. We've got to get people back out raging Black Diamond, Open Space, spending time together. You'll see we've got a few more trails there, a little bit of an emphasis on in-city stuff. We've got stuff going at Cheesty and the Colonnade, City of Auburn Pump Track. And then we've got some stuff that's a little further out, Tennant Trailhead, North Bend, right underneath Raging River. You maybe can ride from town. And Olali Phase 2 and Tahala. So for us, it's really been amazing and great partnership with the headquarters office, and really most of all, an amazing community that supports everything that we can do. So thank you all for the opportunity to serve and help everybody do this great sport.
Thanks, Wes. Really excited about all the urban things happening. I think that's going to be big. It's going to kind of change how we're going about riding, who's coming to our trails. Really exciting stuff. We can't really give a round of applause, but it feels like this would be the right moment for a round of applause for all of the amazing work that's happening across the state. It's so impressive. Thank you all, for so many hours being put into the trails, to the education program, to the advocacy that goes on behind the scenes. Really amazing work.
Yeah, and thank you for stepping in, Kristen. That was awesome, for giving us the tour around the state. Thanks all the chapter reps. Sorry for having to keep you on track. But we're going to get into Mike's presentation now. So since we are kind of trying this in a different format, Mike, I'm going to stop my share and have you pull up your slides.
All right. Hi, everybody. Let me see if I can get this to work. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, Patrick, that's... Okay, let me open up and I'll share on mine. Give me 1 second, you guys.
While Yvonne's doing that, I want to echo the thanks to all of the chapters, all of those guys who just spoke. our volunteers, and they've been volunteering for years at just an extraordinary level to bring us new trails. It's just incredible, the commitment. Huge thanks to all you guys. Huge thanks to all of the volunteers of the year. And I know there's probably more people need to be on that list. Thanks to everybody who's out there again and volunteering with the education team at events, marketing. Really do appreciate that. Can't say that enough. Can't say that enough. I have one complaint though, and I'll just echo what Wes said. There's so many trails I can't ride them all. I was supposed to get out to Mount Spokane this summer. That didn't happen. Just too many. I'll get there someday.
Hey, hold on, Mike. I am not seeing your latest slides in the drive, so I'm pulling them up from your inbox.
Oh, actually, Patrick turned it on. I got it.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thank you, Patrick.
So let me know if you can see this.
Yes, we can. Thank you, Mike.
All right, cool. So I'm gonna just break the ice a little bit here and do a little quiz. We're gonna talk about statewide trails, the distribution of all of our different skill levels from green to blue to black to double black diamond. Like how many miles of trail do you think we have that are green, blue, black, and double black as a percentage? So let's see how this works. All right, so first of all, I just want to see a show of hands as to how you think they're ranked. So if, obviously double black diamond is going to be the number 4. We all know that. But do you think blue is number 1 or green is number 1? Do you think black diamond is number 2 or number 3? So with the show of hands, hit your little participation button at the bottom and raise your hand if you think it's A, that it's green first, blue next, black, and then double black. Getting any hands?
You can raise your hand under reactions.
Yes, nobody thinks that's the case. How many people think it's B? Blue is number 1, green's number 2, black diamond number 3, double black number 4. Ooh, lots of hands. Lots of hands. Cool. All right. How about C? Blue is number 1, black is 2, green is 3. Now, will the hands disappear?
You have to turn off. I think you have to turn them back on. When you raise your hand, you also have to lower it, I believe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, hit your reactions button again and it'll go away.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Some people on C. And then D. How many people think green is number 1, black diamond 2, blue 3, and then 4? Any new hands? All right. None on that one. All right, so, and the answer is, boom, it's B. Yeah, we have the most blue trails, which is probably what you'd expect. Then green, then black diamond, and then double black diamond. But now, to take it a step further, what do you think the percentage distribution is of those trails? Which chart that you see here most accurately represents Washington's trail distribution by difficulty level? And it's just kind of a little thing here. So is the blue just a bit more than the green? We know blue is number 1, but is it just a bit more than green as in A, or is it a lot more than green as in D? Do we have like 8 or 6% of double black diamond trails, or is it closer to 2, 1%? How many of you think it's A? Oh, the hands aren't going down. You have to hit your little reaction button for the hands to go down.
It's going up, Mike. I see 8 hands raised right now.
Okay, cool. And then how about B? Oh, I saw some new hands go up.
Hands are rising. 14 hands, still climbing.
Still climbing. All right. How about C? Oh, seen a lot go on here, right? A lot of action on C.
A lot of actions. 25 hands so far, going up.
All right. How about D? Oh, seen a lot of hands.
That's dropping, Mike. It's dropping quick.
It's dropping quick. All right. Well, here, the answer is C. Look at that. I would have thought before I ran these numbers, this is, oh, and by the way, this is all based on TrailForks data with the unsanctioned trails taken out. So only sanctioned trails. So, and I've taken out all the rails to trails that I can and only included single track. And, it's all subject to TrailFork accuracy. But I think, if you look at any small trail system or area, it might be a little inaccurate. But when you look at the whole state, I think this is going to be a pretty accurate picture. Yeah, only 2% double black diamonds, 20% black diamond. I think we need more of that. What do you guys think? All right. So that's the quick little quiz just to show you some other graphs. Check this one out. This is the statewide distribution, and below you'll see the number of miles on Trail Forks, and then compare that to the unsanctioned trails. Obviously, a lot more double black diamond and black diamond. Another cool chart to look at here. Check out statewide versus King County. Even lower on the black diamond and double black options. That's because we've had so many skills parks like Duthie and Docton and new green level climbing trails coming into the picture. So we've got more blue and green trails in King County. Now compare that to Whatcom County. A lot more double black diamond, 5 times as many as King County. Interesting. And now let's look at a couple other chapters. Check this out. Cowlitz Natchez, 32% and 8, way higher than the state average. Same for Kittitas, same for Central. Why do you think that is? If someone wants to mute and shout out the answer, why are there so many black diamond and double black diamond trails in those 3 chapters or areas? Forest Service Moto Trails, the Gifford Pinchot and the Natchez Ranger District, in Kittitas, the Cle Elum Ranger District with Yellow Hill and all those really tough multi-use moto trails. Central as well with the Wenatchee River District. That's what's driving all that up compared to statewide. And then just the last little graph to kind of show you the other chapters. And you can see the Metal, a lot of green and blue, as they've been really building a lot of purpose-built, a lot of mileage lately. To give you a picture of that. So if you have any questions, think back on these, and we can answer questions later at the end. And so now I'll just kind of following up on the chapters. You've heard each chapter talk about what's going on in their patch. Here's a picture. Here's a statewide picture of what that looks like. I'll point out a few things that weren't mentioned in the chapter presentations. First of all, at Tiger and Raging, 2 awesome new trails open, lower return policy, built by DNR, all designed and built. Well, we helped a little bit with the design, but really 99% of the design work was DNR. All of the build work was DNR on the lower return policy trail. And then also the new side hustle trail at Tiger Mountain. That's all DNR. So huge thanks to those crews. And they need to hear it. You know, they're not allowed to chime in on social media as being part of DNR. Everything has to go through their public relations. So, you know, whenever you can, give them a shout out. They really deserve it. They're working hard out there. A couple other things that weren't mentioned. Seabrook, we actually we built most of it in 2020, but we finally finished it and opened it in 2021. Port Gamble Ride Park, I've got 2 stars there because we're wrapping up the chapter funded phase 1 of the Port Gamble Ride Park, and we just got, as John mentioned, the big county contract to do the bigger chunk of the Port Gamble Ride Park. So that's going to be it. Here is, and I can bring this slide back up during the Q&A, but kind of just scan this slide, look at some of the trails, and then, you know, if you have questions, bring them up later. If you want me to dive into detail, I can do that too. One other huge note all the maintenance. Our maintenance funding and maintenance work tripled in 2021 compared to 2020. It's a big year for maintenance. All right, there's the mileage. And this is all rough because, you know, some of it's started, some of it's rideable, some of it's open, but not officially open. But roughly 26 total new miles of trail and 16 more started in progress in 2021. Those are lower, quite a bit lower than 2019 and lower than 2020. Some of the folks have already alluded to the reasons for that. Fires were a big one. The actual fires in the Meadow had a huge disastrous impact, but the fire shutdowns on DNR state lands impacted trails like Nana. But also, just the huge maintenance funding took up a lot of our resources. And then the big one, we've just had a few projects that have just been delayed and delayed and delayed. One of them is Raging Phase 2, another is Olali, another is Green Mountain, another is Tahale. Finally, we got Port Gamble after 4 years. So those, we're just really hoping that those pop in 2022. I'm calling them likely. I really hope we do finally resolve all of the problems we're having with a lot of those projects, specifically Raging and Olali, Tahale, Green Mountain. I think we're gonna get started on that in 2022. But once again, I can't talk about every single project, but look at that map. It's crazy. It could be a huge, huge year, as Yvonne mentioned. So look at some of those projects, write them down if you have any questions, and then we'll come back and talk about them. Also note even more maintenance funding. All the green stars are maintenance. Dedicated Great American Outdoors Act funding for the Highway 410 and Suisun trail areas. Dedicated funding for Methow and Entiat, and an agreement with Transcascadia to do a ton more maintenance in the backcountry with Transcascadia. Lots of maintenance funding up in the Methow to rebuild up there. And I love some of the things I'm hearing on the chat, like from John. Hey, we need to do ride dig weekends in the Methow all season long. Hey, when the wildflowers are out in April, May, big camp out, ride, work party, and start cleaning up those trails. So that's all I wanted to say from the big picture. And now I just kind of wanted to open it up to questions and answers. And I've got some other slides where I can take a deep dive into some of these projects if you want to.
Yeah, awesome, Mike. So the mic is open, you guys. Put your questions in the chat. Kristen and Peter monitor for me and call out. And Mike is basically just going to facilitate from one question to another. Before we start, though, I just want to give everybody a heads up that we're using this new Zoom event feature that we haven't used before, which may mean a hard cutoff. We are not sure. So Patrick's looking into that right now. But we may get cut off hard at 8:30. I apologize for that beforehand. We'll try to use the last 30 minutes as best as we can. Shoot away.
Hey, Mike, we have a couple questions already, mostly about kind of some upcoming trail projects. Olali Phase 2, Snoqualmie Bike Park, and Atlas.
Right, I'll pull those up. There we go. Okay, here's my project detail map. So I'll start with Olali Phase 2. There it is. All right. All right, here's Olali Phase 2. This is the plan. It's still in the permitting phase. It's already funded, just hung up in permitting, and we're working on it. So we're actually going to be, it's a state park project and a state park grant, but our DNR land manager, Sam Jarrett, is actually running the interagency agreement to actually manage that for state parks and then subcontract Evergreen like we did on Olali Phase 1. So it's a little bit complicated. That's part of the reason why it's delayed. But the red trail is the existing out and back Olali trail just up to where the road to trail conversion starts. Actually, let me get my laser pointer going. So up to here. So, and now we've got a short green loop right off the SVT. So families, small kids, take the SVT, climb up a little bit, come down a green, and have a nice little workout. And then a stacked loop all the way up to a blue trail back down to the SVT, or a stacked loop up to a black diamond trail down to the SVT, or climb all the way to the top or halfway to that first viewpoint. And we're going to legitimize that ridge trail that hugs the cliff edge going all the way down. We'll legitimize this. This actually does exist. It's just not rideable right now. And we'll make that official. And then a new double diamond, maybe triple diamond descent from here all the way back down to the SVT. I don't know if you can see this shading, the red, orange, and yellow. Those are steep grades, like 60, 80, 100% grades. It's all flagged. And then, what was the other one, Kristen?
Snoqualmie.
Snoqualmie Pass. There it is. Okay, here's the trail plan and status at Snoqualmie Pass. We're back. So this little green boundary line is the boundary between U.S. Forest Service land to the south this way. The map actually turned 90 degrees. So kind of south this way is U.S. Forest Service land, and then west this way is Forest Service land. This is all private Snoqualmie Pass land. So the first seasons, 2019, 2020, we built these trails that are highlighted in blue. They're almost 100% complete. There's a blue square tech spicy blue trail called Lost and Found, a black diamond trail with a double black option called the Central Express DH, which uses a lot of the old Central Express DH from way back in the day. And then a double black diamond Black Forest trail that also uses a bunch of the old Black Forest trail from back in the day. But they've had total facelifts, reroutes, rebuilds, a lot of wetland mitigation and stuff that had to happen. Those were the first two really light seasons, not a lot of funding, didn't have the permit, but then 2021, we got the permit. We were able to start in June. So all hands on deck that we had, actually, we were looking to hire contractors and hire new builders. We couldn't find any experienced builders or contractors. They were all swamped, but we put every available builder we had on it. And what we got done is Green Party, this green flow trail from the top of the Silver Fir lift all the way down to the bottom of the Silver Fir. We got that about 85-90% complete. Then we started a little blue-green progression line right here, and we started the blue flow line right here that goes from the top of the lift all the way to the bottom of the park. And then we got a little bit done on the Silver Fir DH, which is going to be a black diamond tech trail. So that's what Snoqualmie Summit wanted to open this park. They wanted a green trail, a blue flow, a spicy blue, a black diamond, and a double black diamond before opening. And that's what we'll have. And I really am confident we're going to be able to open it next year in 2022. So, and just fingers crossed. And then there's a lot of trails we're going to be adding in between, like a black diamond free ride trail. We're going to put the Big Wood Trail back into play. There's another one called 39B. There's another blue tech trail in the plan. So over the years after it's open, we'll just add more trails. All right.
Cool, thanks, Mike. So there's been a couple of questions regarding e-bikes, kind of design considerations, you know, what's the rest of the question? Yeah, kind of where are things at with the discussion on trails that are open to e-bikes? This might be one for Yvonne.
Yeah, I'll take that one for now, real quick. And I'll keep it short for now so we can get back to projects and make sure those questions are covered, and make myself available for more offline discussions on e-bikes as well. But very quickly, the year started with an unexpected e-bike bill that hit in Washington State. Jesse mentioned it. Representative Dent was one of the co-sponsors. We responded to that and modified the bill significantly. The bill ended up being a requirement for state agencies to put pilots into place in multiple locations. And those pilots need to be live. They also need to adopt an e-bike policy sometime next year. To help those agencies out, Evergreen started a 7-month advisory committee process that some of you participated in. Again, thank you so much. It was a multi-stakeholder advisory committee that met for 7 months, once a month. And I tried very hard to make the process scientific rather than emotional, in order to get through the enormous amount of opinions, desires, and stakeholder groups that are interested in this topic. And so I have a matrix of the best and most amount of alignment that most of these groups that were participating in the process could agree to. The report for that needs to be done by the end of the year, so I will share that report with you all. And I will share the matrix, and I will probably do another coffee hour. So if you missed the e-bike coffee hour that I did earlier this year, number one, that is recorded. And number two, I'll probably do another one. We had an internal evergreen committee, so some of you and volunteers helping me kind of navigate this and recommend things, and then ultimately put out a draft recommendation. And we had an external stakeholder group thinking about the statewide scale. The thing to keep in mind is e-bike access to trails is not just a mountain bike issue, and we tend to forget that because we have our lens, right? And so the reason why things aren't moving as fast, for some, way too slow, right, for some of you, and the reason why some people are saying, no, not yet, let's hold off, is because the technology is changing the user experience, not just for mountain biking, but for people with disabilities, for hunters who are now using e-bikes to get into territory that they didn't get before. So that affects Department of Fish and Wildlife and how they treat and see the impact of the technology. The conservationists and wildlife folks, right, the organizations that deal with it in that end and now see more people accessing the land, and what does that mean? So there's a huge scope of interest from recreation groups that is way more than just mountain biking, and that's why it's moving so slow. That said, my summary report will be done at the end of the year. It is quite amazing, and there's a good amount of momentum between finding support on Class 1 access. Class 2 and Class 3 are pretty much off the table when you're talking to other user groups. So I'll leave it at that. There's a ton to cover here. We could have its own meeting for that. But more to follow, and thanks for your interest in this. It certainly kept me busy for 7 months this year.
Thanks, Yvonne. Mike, there's been a lot of specific questions on trails and kind of the status, but I want to ask you a broad one first. Just a general question about how do trail projects get prioritized?
Yeah, good question. Really complicated answer. I mean, at the end, we Evergreen are going after pretty much any trail opportunity that makes sense. But we do have some higher level goals. So one of our number one goals is to increase trail diversity and progression opportunities inside each network. So to kind of spread out the traffic in that network, provide progression opportunities, provide a better variety, and for a bigger diversity of users. So there's that. So we're constantly looking at our networks like the Raging River and saying like, okay, do we need more blues? Do we need more greens? What space do we have? And so we're constantly trying to add to our networks. That's a high priority. Another high priority is new trail systems and new trail heads closer to communities. So bring the trails closer to where people live whenever we can. And that's a huge priority. And that's things like trying to get new trails at Mitchell Hill, because that's in my backyard and then I can just ride right there. No, but as an example, at Mitchell Hill, Lord Hill, better trails at Lord Hill for beginners, the Mark Worth Forest, Snohomish County. We've been trying to get trails up for folks up there for a long time. So there's kind of had these members, so there's diversify existing networks, new networks near communities, and then maintenance. It's just grow our maintenance capabilities to keep these trails so that they're consistently meeting their established objectives, or if we decide to change their objectives, we change them accordingly. So that's kind of a high level of how they get prioritized. Then it's just, there's so many other factors. Where do we get funding? Where do we get permission? Where do we have the right terrain and land available for it? I could take a deep dive into any of these projects, and you'll kind of see that at Olali, for example, the terrain's pretty limited. Like if we want to go down that north-facing ridge from the top, it's gonna have to be a double black diamond. There's no other way around it. So we kind of prioritize, and then we look at those pie charts. Like, we got 1% of double black diamond trails in King County. Yeah, let's do it. If we can get permission, if we can get funding, if we have the terrain to get a double black diamond trail from there, yeah, let's do it. And then it all boils down to the chapters. All of the input these days, now that the Cascades to Sound chapter is fully up and running, I think the chapters really need to be to own the marching orders. This is what we have. This is what we're missing. This is what we have too much of. This is what our community wants. This is how our community is changing. So we want these things that then directs us and says, hey, we need more blues at Tiger and Raging, or we need more double black diamonds in King County, or whatever it is. I remember going to the Methow, and it was a great example of where it's like, I don't know how, because we started by building those trails, and then the Methow over the years gradually gained the skills to make all those decisions themselves. I didn't even show up the last 2 seasons. I showed up to ride, but I wasn't there to help and work like I was the first 2 seasons. But I remember building 3 sections of trail for Josh, president at the time. And it's like, this is very minimally built, just hand built, scratched in. This is kind of more heavily built. We call it machine assist. And this last section is full on machine, rip out all the roots, buff it down, bank corners, rollers, flowy. And Josh was like, there is absolutely no question here. We want that. We have 40 miles of 6-inch wide single track, like that first one. We want this. So we all look to the chapter to really provide that direction. Like Eric and his team, the Yakult Burn, Tyler Kalasnachis, all the chapters really should own that and know what they want and need in their chapter. Long answer. Sorry about that. Yvonne, do you want to add to that?
No, because that was a long answer, but I will say that the survey, the member survey, we're supposed to do it this fall. We're moving it to the spring. We ask you all too what you want, right? And then this is where I go in, I look at what we can make shovel ready as fast as we can. As Mike said, my former nickname on this was the Pitbull. So I think Dave calls me the Hammer now. I think that's what I heard, right, Dave? But what can we get shovel ready as fast as possible, and how can we give big funding for those shovel ready? Because if we can fund it, we're going to do it fast. If we have to rely on clients, it's going to take multiple years. So I get what we can get. We go after what we think is most realistic.
Awesome, thanks. Let's dive into some updates on specific trails that people are curious about. What about the Middle Fork Trail?
The Middle Fork Snoqualmie? Yeah, so that has just recently been reopened by the U.S. Forest Service. There was a huge washout, and we didn't really do much. They got their own dedicated funding to fix that. They worked with the Mountains to Sound Greenway. We did a few work parties in there to help, but that was really led by the Forest Service. And it's back open again. And we just went in there this fall, just before it closed the season to bikes, to try and do some brushing work high up high on the trail near Dutch Miller Gap. But we didn't really get in up there, so we're going back in the spring as soon as the snow melts.
Awesome, thanks, Mike. What about, so there's been a few questions about Alpine Baldy, Snohomish County kind of in general. What's going on up there?
All right, Alpine Baldy. There it is. We're really working for a phase 2 at Alpine Baldy to do 2 things. One is to complete the loop. Actually, let me get my laser pointer back. There it is. So the blue is the existing Alpine Baldy trail that goes up through the meadow, down to the bench, and then back. Green is the Beckler Peak hiking trail. It goes up to Beckler Peak. This red line, we want to continue this loop all the way back down. We were originally going to join the Beckler Peak hiking trail right here and then make this multi-use. That's what's in the NEPA process right now, the national permitting process. But this is like 15 to 18% grade, old road grade straightaway with tons of hikers on it. We couldn't imagine sending riders down that with hikers coming up, steep straightaway. Couldn't imagine sending climbers up that unless they had an e-bike. It's like 15 to 18% grade the whole way. So we decided to bite the bullet and go for a new categorical exclusion or an amendment to the NEPA process to get this to go all the way down this ridge line to this point. So we'll have a nice lollipop with basically a flat mile out. So, you know, there's almost no pedaling there. Maintenance pedaling, as it's called. So it's almost a true loop. And then when we said, well, while we're at that, you know, the snow really accumulates on this road right here and lasts a lot longer. So why don't we provide an earlier spring loop before that snow melts? So there's a viewpoint right here, and we flagged a downhill along this ridge for a little bit of a lollipop. And so that is in permitting. The Forest Service was working on it pretty actively until COVID hit, and it's been just really stagnated since then. But we've just started the email and voicemail firestorm to kick that into gear again, because we've got an awesome donor that's very interested in this project and wants to help contribute some construction funds to get that going. So that, yeah, that's high on our list now. Get that moving in.
Thanks, Mike. Tenant Trailhead and stuff going in there.
Tenant Trailhead. All right, let's check that out. Oh wait, sorry, I'm going backwards.
And while you're pulling that up, Mike, Kristen, we have just about 10 minutes left. So let's figure out how much time we need for the drawing, and cut us off at that point. Okay, Kristen?
Thanks, I forgot about the drawing.
Okay. Tenant Trailhead, this is North Bend, just off of exit 31. Exit 31 would be just off the screen here, turns into Ryberry Way. And the city of North Bend bought 3 parcels there to build a bike park and a parking lot as a gateway to the Raging River Trail system. So we've designed an easy climbing trail with some kind of flow lines, and then a more intermediate climbing trail with some tech lines to practice. So just for progression, a little skills park, a little kids loop, and a hiking path. And then this, from this point here, will eventually connect through King County land and state land all the way over to the Raging River to exit 27.
Very cool. Speaking of 27, what about Raging Phase 3?
Raging Phase 3, my favorite. Look at that. Whoa. So, there it is. Okay, so real quick, here is kind of the conceptual of the Raging River system, just to make it look easy. Green is Phase 1. That's the upward mobility to the Raging Ridge Trail, to Invictus Snow Service, up return policy, down the Ridge Trail, down Poppin' Tops, and Flow State. Phase 2 added the Raging Tiger Trail. It legitimized physical therapy and added the extensions, middle and lower physical therapy, added the Canyon Creek DH. And then now we're using this Raging Tiger Trail as a return. Eventually that'll connect over to Tiger. That was Phase 2. Phase 2A, actually. Phase 2B was led by DNR. That was lower return policy. For now, that is going to eventually connect over to Taylor. But for now, riders have to take the road back, or you can turn around and climb back up it. It's very climbable. That's what's done. So now to put that in perspective, here is Phase 3 and 4 combined in what we're calling a final phase, and the North Bend connection. So all the yellow is Phase 3 and 4. Here's a single track connection from lower return policy back to the Raging Tiger Trail at the ridge, connection over to Taylor, a little low elevation cross country loop, connection to Tiger, some stacked loops off of the Raging Tiger Trail, and then 2 new downhills, one between PT and Canyon Creek, and one over close to return policy. I'm just kind of completing the stacked loop network. The actual plan in the Snoqualmie Valley rec plan actually had more mileage than this, but been kind of negotiating down just to get it permitted and get it through. And this is what we're really going for. And then of course, there's the North Bend connection. This is kind of where it'll come from Ryberry Way. And there will be one other downhill as an alternative to Poppin' Tops and Flow State to get back to the trailhead, just to take some of the strain off of those trails.
Hey, I want to interject for just a second, and because I cut Joe off earlier and a lot of change happened in the Methow this summer, I want to make sure we honor that with a little bit more time. I promised we'd go back to that. So if there are questions about the Methow, please put it in the chat right now to make sure that we get back to that.
Here's a quick slide on the Methow just to show you the loop system. Here's Winthrop. All the Sun Mountain trails are off to the west here. Here's Twisp. And this is how big the planning area is for Loop. A lot of it's going, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of it's going on in the ski area, but it's also going to be new trails in the Bear Mountain all the way up to Lightning Creek zones as well.
Correct.
Huge. And then a connection over to Pipestone Canyon. Here's Peregrine Lake up here, just huge area.
Very cool. I think that's probably about where we should end it so that we have time for the final wrap up. Yvonne mentioned in the chat, because there's, you know, maybe a lot of interest about specific topics or specific trails and project updates. Reach out to us. You know, if there's a lot of interest, we might do a coffee chat with Yvonne or Mike, or we can, you know, direct you to the right places on our website. Put it in the chat as well. We'll take a copy of that whole chat and try to follow up on any of those questions. Peter, are you running sorry, I'm not sure who's running the prize drawing.
I do not know.
All right, then I'll run it. I think that should be one of the next slides.
All right, I'll take over again. Let's see if I can share my screen.
If I can stop presenting.
And while I pull this up, you guys, and start the show again, questions about the Methow is, yes, it was devastating, right? The trails burnt. Joe, how many miles of trails burned?
Our estimate is about 22. It's a little bit hard to be precise just because, you know, there were portions of some trails and then some trails almost in their entirety. So, but that's our best estimate.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. This is why we're dedicating the Bring 'em Back campaign, the Bear Grant, GAOA funding, all to restore that, right? Kristen, can you see my screen?
Yep, now I can.
Okay, awesome. I hear and see a ton of unanswered questions in the chat. Thank you so much. We'll log this, so we'll be able to go back to that. Jeff, so good to have you here. And I see Beer and Maps Hour. We can do it. We've done it in North Bend before. It's been a while. It's just, you know, COVID. So, but as we're getting back together, that is definitely the plan. So, Kristen, if you can see my screen, go ahead and take it away. Let's do a little giveaway before we wrap it up.
Yeah, so behind the scenes, Patrick pulled a couple winners. We have two kind of prize packages with a lot of evergreen swag. We have a buff, a hat, some evergreen grips. Then we also have some socks, water bottle cage, and tires. And then one package has a neck brace, and then the other package has a full face helmet. And it looks like, I just have emails of the winners, so I'm not sure exactly what your name is, but I will put those in the chat right now. Of our two winners, we'll follow up with you via email to get your package to you. But congratulations, enjoy some fun swag. And then I think we're gonna wrap up here with Peter.
Yes, I think it's apparent from everything that we've gone over tonight that there is a ton of good stuff happening and a ton more that's going to happen next year. And it takes money. We talked about grants, but grants will fund projects, but to get the trails maintained, to keep our staff employed at a professional level and seeing the results where we end up with world-class trails takes your support. And that's what our end of the year campaign is all about. Our Give Big campaign in May focuses directly on trail projects. At the end of the year, it focuses on funding for just everything that makes Evergreen stay on track. So we really need you to support us. And I have a challenge for you, maybe a couple of challenges. If you were to donate $42 a month, that would be $500 over a year, which isn't that much when you think about it. And maybe for every one of you that's here, you could challenge 2 of your riding partners to match however much money that you tend to contribute this year. And Yvonne or Kristen, that's probably about it.
I like it, Peter. Thank you. We got 1 minute left. Thank you all for being here. Like I said, we're monitoring our chat. I'm getting tons of ideas for coffee hours. So we're planning 2022 now. So let's do that. Let's dive into these. I'm always game, and you saw Mike is too. So lots of follow up. It's also really cool that these meetings, you know, the bulk of this is now trails, and that is what we dreamt about, right? Years and years ago. So it's just so cool that we can't even fit it in an hour and a half anymore. So keep up the good work. Thank you for being here. Send us questions, and happy holidays, everyone. I look forward to riding with all of you again in the new year. Appreciate the enthusiasm in the chat, and Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
See you in 2022. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Ditto.